And so this is something, although it be small, although it be, you know, a minor drop in the ocean of drama, it is important to note that something that Poppy and people in her orbit do regularly is if there is something that bothers someone, they will stick the knife in and they will twist it about that specifically. And this is just an example of that. This is something that Gayfesh has expressed and said, this is something that I don't like, it bothers me. And before, when they were friends, it was like, let's be mindful of the things that bother Gayfesh. Let's be polite, let's be considerate, let's be mindful, whatever. Now that Gayfesh is not friends with these people anymore, they are very happy to use that against him. All right, guys. So a lot has kind of popped off. For backstory, a lot of people have kind of like fucked off from their community. Obviously, for good reason. And anybody that does so is accused of, you know, not having critical thinking skills, being brainwashed, being dumb, being manipulated, being possessed by the spirit of Melina, whatever it may be, okay? So, somebody who was in the PoppyVerse named Lumi had said, you know, one of the reasons that I left or decided to no longer be a part of the quote-unquote foundation, which is their little like Discord community or whatever, was actually due to Poppy's behavior in general. So these are some screenshots that were shown, that were leaked essentially to show that this is the behavior that Lumi was talking about. So we have here, this is a screenshot from an anonymous Tumblr asker. And Poppy asks, is this you? And Lumi says that I don't use Tumblr. Poppy says, okay, I was informed by Annie that you had issues with my actions. I'm taking against Ruin. So I wanted to ask directly. This info was leaked from Kester, and I was curious. And Lumi said, I'm not planning to engage with any of this publicly. I just have a moral issue with you attacking a homeless person's income is all. I'm not going to go after you for any of that, though. Poppy says that's fair. The moment he threatened my household, he was violating TOS. He still has a PayPal and people can donate there. But I will report his other accounts. We had to call 911 because he was on stream looking for my home. That's cyber stalking. What he's doing is threatening bodily harm implicitly. As such, I have no problem pushing back. And again, to my understanding here, again, this was essentially Ruin. I know that I'm saying his name wrong. That's half the joke. Was essentially him just saying like, I've seen Poppy in public, like we live in the same town. And it has been said many times that he wasn't like looking for Poppy and Xena's fucking house on like Zillow or Google Maps or whatever. He was looking at January 6th shit. So whatever. Anyway, so Libby says, you can do as you wish in accordance with your morals. Poppy says nods. Yeah, I'm not sure if you've used that argument elsewhere, but I think someone is parroting what you said to Annie. Libby says, I mean, from what I saw, Gayfesh made the same argument. It's not really particularly hard to take a reach depending on one's ethics. Poppy said, I didn't see that. I disagree with it. To say this is murder is asinine. And that's in regards to people saying that it was murder to essentially report all of Ruin's pay apps and shit like that because at the time he was homeless. Poppy says, homeless shelters exist and this person has PayPal. He shouldn't have violated TOS or went after my family. Lemmy says, you don't have to agree with that, but people will still also not agree with you here. She says, I don't care. Lemmy says, then don't. Poppy says, you and Fesh are wrong. Libby says, okay, I think you're wrong, so what's there to say? Poppy says, and you're taking his side is obviously hurtful. Libby says, I'm not going to flip on my ethics for you, sorry. And I'm not going to hold it against you because I know things are messy for you right now. Poppy says, Gayfesh has been misaligning me online. I think she meant to say, like, maligning, but okay. So are you saying you disagree with me? Was I sexually assaulted, yes or no? Lemmy says, probably yes. Poppy says, no. Yes or no, I'm not playing games. Lemmy says, you make me feel more unsure when you pressure me like this. I'm not playing games either. You either back your friend or you don't. Fesh has been attacking me for weeks. Lemmy says, you are pushing me into distrusting you because I'm not in a mentally well place and you're making me feel like you're trying to manipulate me. Poppy says, it sounds like you're aligning with him and I'm not trying to manipulate you. I'm asking your perspective. So this was essentially the conversation that caused Lumi to no longer want to associate with Poppy. And you can see that in like the course of this conversation, like we have to get the last word. We can't just like let Lumi, like Lumi tries to disengage many times and say like, you know, whatever, that's your perspective. I'm not going to go at you for it. I don't care. Like whatever, I'm just going to be done. So we see here that this is the behavior essentially that led to Lumi essentially leaving the community. Reno also says, reminder to people here, I literally never went looking for a house. I pulled up MapQuest directions from my town to hers. So, in response to this, there are quite a lot of people that are, kind of side-eyeing this, paired with Nightwild posting the document that released personal information that didn't need to be released. That's kind of like kicking up a lot of sand in the Poppy sphere, essentially, the PoppyVerse. Because a lot of people have an issue with, believe it or not, publishing people's names before they transition. Especially if you're a trans person, you should know that's like a particularly icky thing to do. And it's not relevant or necessary. And the argument again is that people that are abusive or rapists or evil malignant narcissists, that they don't deserve anonymity. And it's not just that they don't deserve anonymity, they don't deserve like the dignity of their chosen name, which I think is incredibly telling. But I mean, I'll let you draw your own conclusions with that. So obviously this kind of like blew up here for a moment, okay? So Lumi says, essentially this is somebody saying to Poppy and Xena, I got blocked by Lumi. And Xena and Poppy say, good, block her back. Between her 5 crises a day, dozens of logs I have in my server about her mental health issues, and the difficulties with White Nervosa's drinking, and the original reason she got booted, i.e. PETA level kill all pets rhetoric, you are better off. And Lumi says, dead set on proving that you are a deeply unsafe person to be around, huh? Good to know that your, quote, mental health space is really just a blackmail center. Also, you thinking that me being against unethical breeding practices is, quote, kill all pets rhetoric says more about you than me. So, what we essentially have here is an admission that when people are posting in this Discord server, that is supposed to be a safe space for like mentally ill people, people with personality disorders, trans people, give me you're poor, you're tired, you're weary, essentially. When people are having these kinds of issues, episodes, mental health crises, whatever you want to call, this kind of behavior, or even things that are disclosed in private, like here specifically bringing up White Nervosa's drinking. Lumi is White Nervosa's partner. I believe they're married. That this is just like locked and loaded as ammunition to attack these people when they do wrong, essentially, to Poppy. Which is a disgusting behavior, truly disgusting behavior. It's like weaponizing people's worst moments that you facilitate to happen in your Discord server and then turning it around, flipping it and reversing it, and then like attacking people on that, which is horrible. So here we have somebody responding to this and saying, wait, are you using your Discord to collect dirt on people you dislike? I try to not pay attention to any of this, but Christ, this isn't what I would expect from a mental health professional. And so Poppy says, that's literally not what I said, but feel free to make up more fanfic. No one is using anyone's Discord for that. But when somebody is the majority of all the venting in particular Discord chat while talking shit, it's kind of fucked up. Also, she's not a fucking client. I'm under no obligation to keep anything confidential. When I'm off duty, I'm just another person. Please don't try to throw my profession in my face as some sort of gotcha. So let's kind of zoom out on the macro level again. And this is a reoccurring criticism, is that when you mix your professional and your personal life and you use your like in real life credentials, your job, your occupation, your career as a way to bolster yourself within a space, that falls under that purview, right? Where if I'm a lawyer and I'm out and about giving law advice here, saying this, saying that, so on and so forth, my credentials then suddenly become a topic of discussion because somebody might disagree with my take on something, right? So I might say, as a lawyer, I would say da-da-da-da-da. And somebody might say, well, actually, as somebody who is also a lawyer, I say da-da-da-da-da. And then it comes under scrutiny like my legal practice, right? That would then come under scrutiny because maybe I have a shit take. Maybe I do something that's maybe out of line with like my code of ethics or the practice or whatever, hypothetically speaking, right? And additionally, the behavior that you would like to see emulated from somebody who poses themselves both on social media and professionally as like a mental health professional and somebody who is sensitive to this, that, and the other thing. Poppy posts on her Twitter regularly about being an expert in DBT, being a licensed therapist, being an expert in dissociative disorders and so on and so forth. This is not how you would expect somebody with that practice to act, right? You wouldn't expect somebody like this to take people and their vulnerabilities, their mental illnesses, kind of vent sessions essentially in a Discord that's supposed to be a safe space for the mentally unwell, and then use that as a line of attack against that person. Like, I would consider that to be an insane crossing of wires that you should never touch together. And they're so entangled at this point, you need, a fucking jackhammer to break them apart. Because this is what she has built. And in not separating these things out, she opens herself up to this direct line of criticism where it's like if you present yourself a certain way and then you act in congruence with the way that you present yourself, people are going to call into question not only your personal ethics, but also your professional ethics when your profession is so heavily tied to the way that you present yourself online. So Gayfesh reposted this, and Gayfesh said, if you're in ZMP's Discord server, please delete your logs and get out. She is literally proving here that she uses her Discord to collect people's mental health information so she can weaponize it against them later, almost like a cult does. And so this is the screenshot and the retweet of Lumi. So when we come through here, we have incredible crossover, you guys. We have Dreamleaf here saying, it's quite concerning that this person somehow managed to become a licensed therapist, which everybody seems to agree with here. Tipster says, a mental health professional weaponizing someone's mental health. That's a pretty big yikes for me, dog. Hello? A broken clock, you guys, a broken clock. When, I would say, when Tipster is criticizing you, you know you done fucked, okay? Because Tipster will throw his entire body weight onto the most irrelevant of swords. So the fact that he's not, you know, being a human shield for you right now is quite incredibly amazing. Amazing. When you're, oh my god, like, crazy, dude. So even the fact that Tipster like isn't even willing to touch this with a 10-foot pole, I think is, you know, pretty telling. So we've had some pretty insane crossover at this juncture, you guys. Some pretty insane crossover at this juncture. And I mean, it is reaching a boiling point, I think, here. So we have you know, Sage is also throwing her hat in the ring for somebody who, you know, asks constantly to be left out of drama, to be left alone. She doesn't want any other smoke, whatever. She's constantly throwing her hat in the ring here. So here she is, you know, like taking some steps from re-entering the hospital for the bad reasons with the stars and all these people or whatever. And so White Nervosa says, keep my wife's name out of your mouth, and maybe your girlfriend will visit you more times than you've threatened to kill yourself. Like, this shit is going fucking cuckoo bananas, dude. Like, we have crossed this threshold that I don't think that we were prepared to cross. So what I had said, and I mean this wholeheartedly and truly, okay, and if there's anything to take away from this, this is what I would hope that, like, people would listen to. There's two things that kind of pushed this bigger train than we could have ever perceived into motion. Okay, the first one is going to be the Nightwild document. Okay, and there's a couple of things with this. So the Nightwild document was essentially, Nightwild has written two documents, and please do not bother Nightwild. Please don't bother any of these people. I disavow, you know, leave them alone, so on and so forth. The first document was about Courtney Orchard, and it was like a complete nothing burger. It was like, Courtney's like this crazy, you know, bitch or whatever, and she's very violent and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we know that Courtney would beat the brakes off of anybody that looks at her wrong. So, I mean, nobody here is surprised, and like, nobody really gives a fuck, okay? She doesn't really play that game. The second one was this document that Nightwild made about Melina. And the document criticizes essentially the length of the documents that Melina put out, and it criticizes the editorializing of them, where it's very narrative driven. There's not a lot of meat to them. There's a lot of priming. And ironically, this document is longer than like all of those documents put together, and like 80% of it is like priming text. Okay, very little of it is screenshots, receipts, evidence, so on and so forth. So there's two big criticisms within this. The first one is that within this document that Nightwild wrote, Nightwild reveals personal information about two people, including like pre-transition names, which is disgusting, for one. Okay? And Poppy and Xena have both said that they support this, essentially, decision by Nightwild. And two things are true about this. One is that these names were either given to or asked for by Nightwild from Poppy and Xena. Like, that's where Nightwild got those names. There's like no world where Nightwild just like found these. These were given, okay? And regardless of what you think about the article, okay? So if we just close our eyes for a second and we pretend that this document, this expose or whatever, wasn't just editorialized priming slop that they bitch about all the time. Pretend that's not the case, and this is a slam dunk. Pretend that this shows that Melina is this Machiavellian, like, evil, gaslighting, manipulator, narcissist, stalker, evil, deranged person, okay? Not a single person is going to remember that. That's not going to be the takeaway. The takeaway is going to be that you went for a cheap shot and you went for a low blow and you stepped outside of what you would consider to be ethically appropriate to like actually like hurt somebody and be a dick. And that's all that people are going to take away from it. Because I mean, realistically, the document was slop. Even if it wasn't slop, if it was this like boom, like big fucking nuke, nobody cares, dude. Everybody is mad as fuck that you decided to include this. And again, Poppy and Zeta said, we didn't do it, but we support this action. So you openly support this. And then I highly doubt that Nightwild wasn't given this information and asked to include it, or you didn't tell them to do it specifically. I would be highly suspect of that. And at the very least, again, this is something that you approve of and you endorse. And it's the only takeaway that anybody is going to have is that you are willing to step outside of your ethical boundaries in order to shit on people that you don't like. And that you're willing to use people's mental illnesses, like mental health outbursts, in what's supposed to be a safe space of your Discord server and shit, to attack people when they flip on you. And again, no love for Tipster, you guys. No, we're not fans of just the tip. Okay, but when this guy isn't willing to fall on the sword for you, when literally everybody is looking around and being like, what are you doing right now? It's time to like slam the brakes and reevaluate. You know what I mean? And it's amazing again that we're digging and digging and digging and digging and digging. I can't fathom it. And again, if we recall, we had some really interesting opinions on like doxing before, right? Like Poppy was very concerned about her legal name being released by Arden, her ex who wrote the very first Twitter thread way back in the day, that her legal name was included in that and it was considered a dox to her. But now, suddenly, a legal name isn't a dox, and it doesn't count. There has to be an address. There has to be longitude and latitude coordinates. There has to be a picture of your front fucking door. It's like we have kind of taken this, like, unattackable position where it's like whatever feels right is what we do. And it's causing everything to erode from the inside out. You know what I mean? And it's the only thing that people are going to remember from all of this. Like, out of everything, I think, this was the worst optical choice. Because your fan base, your community, is mainly comprised of trans people and mentally ill people. So when you're lambasting mentally ill people for being mentally ill and having mental illness episodes or whatever, and using that to attack them, and two, you're willing to dig up somebody's name prior to transition to shit on them, you've just alienated whatever fan base you had left. Because very few people are going to be like, that's cool. Nice job. And man, no breaks. No breaks, guys.